The topic is navigating stressful workplaces for mental health. Now, when I started working, and I have always been a freelancer and a consultant, and all my life I used to see these people in corporate jobs, and they used to say, "Oh, I'm so stressed out, and I have a meeting lined up at this time." And I even on weekdays weekends I'm working, and there are so many phone calls, and I get phone calls even in the middle of the night. And I used to really fantasize them, because I used to feel that, oh, these guys are really working and they're really important people, because I don't get these calls, and I don't have to attend so many meetings in a day. And I somehow we equate having a very stressful work life as being very important or being very successful, and maybe that became a benchmark for us. But yeah, I can hear somebody entering the room. Okay, so but over the years, when I started working, and then I understood that being busy all the time means maybe you are lacking time management skills, and it's not about being important. And that is also when I started exploring that why people feel so stressed out, and what are the common stressors that are there in the workplace. So today, I'll just quickly go through what all things we are going to talk about. Uh, of course, we will talk about the common stresses that are there, that that bugs us in our day-to-day lives in our workplace. Then there will be some tips how to manage the workload, your emotions, and your overall well-being, because that is so important, because you are at the center of everything. You are at the center of your work, you are at the center of your family, and you are the one who is feeding energy in both these areas. So if you are not in a space where you feel good, you can't create that energy in both these spaces. And there is something called a fourth zone. If some of you may know or may not know about the learning zones, that how we learn, and how when we move out of our comfort zone, we learn certain things, and what are those zones. And then I invented a fourth zone where we all love to be in, because that is also something that makes us comfortable. So I will talk about that when we get there. And there is something called a circle of control. So this is a concept that I picked up from a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I love this. This is my favorite circle. So I would like to share this tool with you guys, because this has really worked very well for me. And last but not the least, I get to engage with all the beautiful ladies out here. So this is how these 20 minutes are going to look like. It's so difficult because it's just 20 minutes and I'm so passionate about this topic, but I'll still try my best to make the most of it. Okay, so let's see what are the common stressors that we have in our day-to-day life, and look at this picture, and it so beautifully defines us. And when I saw it, I was like, this is the picture for this slide. So we have a list of these. Sometimes when you take up a job, either you are underutilized or and the other one should have been overskilled, or you are underskilled for the job. You don't have the skill to do the job, or you don't have enough jobs. So that can also cause stress, because you always feel that there is so much that I can do, but I'm still not getting that opportunity. Then there is excessive workload. Of course, I think 90% of the time people are complaining about this, that there is so much work and so little time. Then long inflexible hours. Sometimes the job requires you to be there, and then you can't do much about it, about the number of hours. And for women, if the job doesn't end in the office, after the job ends in the office, there is another job to take care, that is in the home front. And that's like, so that is why people, it is the research has proven that women have better time management skills, because even post work, they have to go back and take care of another world that is waiting for them. So there is job insecurity, because you never know, especially you are in a private sector, you never know when that job will be taken away from you, and you constantly feel that fear that if this is not there, then what else is there for me? So you're constantly thinking about that, and in that sphere, maybe we end up doing things that we don't want to. Lack of control over workload. The workload is there, but it is constantly being thrust on us, but we don't have a control over this, and that can also be one of the stressors. Even though I want to say no, I can't say no to it, because if I say no, I might be perceived as incompetent, or I might be perceived as not wanting to do the job, and then that will not go in the good books of my seniors, and I don't want to be in that space. Then we have poor physical working conditions, and if the surrounding, the environment that I'm working in is not really giving me physical safety, or sometimes maybe it's not pleasant. It's maybe in a room where there is no proper sunlight, and there is no, it can also weigh down upon your state of mind. And it can also, maybe it's a dark corner of the office. That can also be one of the stressors, and we are not aware of it, but then it can weigh down on our mind. Organizational culture, how things go around in an organization. Of course, we have no control on that, and we see this is how it may be a dog eat dog world, and I don't like to be a part of it, but still I'm forced to work in a culture like that. That can be one of the stressors. Lack of support from colleagues and superiors. Sometimes I would say most of the time, when we see a colleague, when we see a person who is in the same department, mostly we are trying to compete with them. We are in a race, and in that situation, if we are working on a common project, there are sometimes people pull out their support, or they don't want to share information, or they don't want to really support you in certain things. So that can be one of the stressors. The person knows everything, but then still he is not cooperating. This is a common scenario that happens in any workplace. Harassment and bullying. A lot of women unfortunately have faced it. I have faced it too, in terms of giving casual comments, or casual sexism is very common. I am a seafarer's wife, and I work in maritime training, and I was often told that because I got this job because of my husband, even though I really worked very hard for it. And these are day-to-day comments, like which seem innocuous, but then it kills your morale when you know that you are competent and you're working hard for what you do. So that can also be one of the stressors. And discrimination and exclusion. Tanaz already mentioned it, that there is discrimination. Sometimes, and in today's scenario, when we are talking so much about DEI, and we are talking about bringing in women in the industry and all that, the discrimination is not it is not visible, but there are undercurrents of that, and you feel it. You feel it when a certain job is passed on to some other person without somebody giving you an explanation, or you feel the pinch when somebody else is given the credit, and where you have really worked hard for it, or somebody just undermining your, just because you're a woman, you got it done through various things, or maybe you used your charms, things like somebody saying that you used your charm to get it done. These are little things that keep coming our way every single day, and we have to keep fighting it. And after a while, it becomes very tiresome, because not everything can be taken in the good spirit and in good humor. And last but not the least, conflicting home and workplace demands. We women have been groomed in such a way that we forever feel guilty for things. If we give up on on our on a kids school event, we feel guilty about it. If we are not there for the exams, we feel guilty about it. I was in Denmark for 2.5 months, and I came back in the beginning of May, and every single day I used to feel guilty about it, even though they are now grown up, they are well taken care of, they can take care of themselves. But it's how we have been groomed as mothers, as women in the household, that we forever feel guilty. And if we are not able to bring that balance, or if there is any kind of conflict, it really stresses us out. So these are some of this is not a comprehensive list, but this is what came in my mind in the first thought. So I just jotted it down. Anyway, so let's see how to manage workload, emotions, and well-being. So the first thing is identify the signs. What are the signs that you are stressed out? If every morning you don't wake up thinking that I want to go to work, oh, it's an exciting day for me, that means there is something lacking, and maybe it is time to sit and review, because we are so into the race that we don't sit and review things. We don't sit and think about, at the end of the day we are so tired that we don't think that what what we went through the day. So it's important to identify the signs. Do you feel exhausted? And when I say exhausted, it is also, it is not, of course, at the end of the day, after so much of physical and mental work, you do feel exhausted. But do you generally feel exhausted, that, you are pushing yourself through the day? That's a sign of stress. If you feel difficulty in concentrating, you can't focus, because when you are doing your work, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your home, or when you are at home, you're constantly thinking about your work. That means there is something amiss. It needs to be cleared up, because maybe something is bothering you. It's not visible, but it is there. Do you feel overwhelmed? Something new comes up. There's any kind of change. Maybe it's a small, slight change. Maybe, you have a very nice setup where your kid is well taken care of while you're away for work. And suddenly the kid has a holiday, school holiday, and he's at home. It's a small change. It's a normal change. Like, it happens to all of us. But does that overwhelm you? If that overwhelms you, then that means there is something that needs to be worked upon. Because one thing that I have learned over the years is, the problem is never the problem. What is on the surface is never the problem. There is something very deep down underlying, and that is something that needs to be, you need to sit and think about. So only when we go backwards from the problem, that we find out the real reason for it. Then there is losing temper, and not all the time women are PMSing. Not all the time, and not everybody is menopausal. So if you are losing your temper over something, that means there is something bothering you, and that is also a sign that their work needs to be done. Then there is, the morale, the overall morale of, I don't know, I can't gather enough courage, or enough I'm not excited to do what I want to do. Every morning I get up and I'm saying, oh, I just have to go to work. And if that is the feeling, we need to sit and review. Irritability, like I said, short temper, irritability, these are all signs of one being stressed out. And when I say being irritable once in a while is fine, because there are triggers. But if you are irritable for a long period of time, that means there is something bothering. Physical manifestations are also there. They can be upset stomach. Some people get eczema. Some people start losing hair. Some people start losing on the sleep. So these are also signs, physical signs of having stress. Sleep disturbances, like I just mentioned, not being able to sleep. I have gone through that for a long time. There was a time when I was sleeping 3 to 4 hours a day, and I had put on a lot of weight, and I was feeling, very lethargic. But I took a lot of time to understand that this is not like something, my body came up with after childbirth, because we normally say, because after childbirth, I put on weight. It was not after childbirth. It was actually, I was going through a lot of stress. And when I cleared that space, I was able to do better for myself. And last but not the least, there is a cup here. Can anybody tell me what this cup means? Random thoughts? Anyone?
An empty cup.
It's an empty cup.
Outlook towards life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an empty cup. It's the outlook towards life. I'm sorry, whoever it is, your voice is cracking. I can't hear you clearly.
That you need a cup of coffee while you are doing your job.
Of course, a cup of coffee. Of course, that really works well. And that's another way of looking at it.
And
but here,
take a break. You can just take a break.
We need to take a break. I would love to put a cup with some wine in it. And I know workplaces don't allow that, but then
I think
White cup.
is and
Amal, your voice is breaking up. Maybe if you
Yeah, I would love to hear what you say, but your voice is cracking. Okay, I will have the last word on this. So the empty cup shows that you can't pour from an empty cup. So first, fill up your own cup. And to identify the signs that I am stressed out is also the first step towards filling your own cup. Doing things that I want to do, and I can only do that when I clear the space for it. So that is why I put an empty cup. Fill it with wine, fill it with vodka, whatever you want to, but fill your own cup and start taking care of yourself, because that's the most important thing and the first step towards handling stress. Next one. Now, this one was a challenge for me as well, because I am a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to be happy around me, and that is how most of us are, aren't we? So setting boundaries was always a challenge for me. Whenever there were deadlines in my work and expectations, I would just jump on it and I would just keep everything aside. Even though I was uncomfortable, I would never say it aloud. And because I would always feel that I need to make the client happy. When I was a consultant, I had clients. Now I'm working, I have my bosses. So I always felt that they need to be happy, and I will never spoke out. And most of the time, what happened, I realized it later, that people were ready to support. It's just that I didn't ask. So not everybody out there is mean and like a shark that they want to bite you out. But then it's just that I didn't ask. And they didn't ask, they didn't know. I didn't ask, they didn't know, and they didn't know, so they didn't help. It was as simple. Say no to tasks beyond your capacity. This was a tough one for me. Saying no never was easy. But then the first step was difficult. The first time when I said no to something, it was very tough, because I was constantly thinking that I said no to that guy. I said no to my client. I said no to my boss. Maybe he may not think very good about me. But then after 2 days, I felt that nothing went, nothing went wrong. Everything was fine. Nobody got killed. So saying no to tasks beyond your capacity, really very important. Taking breaks, it has already come from the group, so important. Now, next time when you take a break, think of that cup and fill it with whatever you want to. And next is overtime, avoiding working overtime or working in the weekends. So I am from India, and culturally, we do not respect the weekends, and we are often working during the weekends. But when I went to Denmark, I saw that they people really, when it is a weekend, it is a weekend. And that is something that I brought back home with me. And then I started practicing it. There was a lot of judgment around me, because like people said, oh, it's just a 2-minute call, or it's just a 5-minute kill. You can always do it. But then it's my weekend. It's my time. And it took some time for people to understand, but now that they have understood, they know that I am not available during those times. I put on a automated mail. I often tell them that I'm sorry, I won't be available. But yeah, if we have seafarers in here in the room, I know that's not possible. You don't have your weekends, but make the most of your vacations that you have. You have your courses and everything, but if whatever time you have to yourself, make sure that you make the most of it, because you are at the center of everything. Delegating and outsourcing tasks. Delegation is important, and delegation is an art. We can only delegate jobs, but even when we delegate jobs, the responsibility lies in us. It is our responsibility. If we are giving a job to someone, it doesn't mean that we pass on the responsibility. So with that thought, it is always important. Delegation, when we start delegating, we also make a second line of leaders for us, and then they are able to take the lead when we are not around. So it's very important, and that comes from leaving this whole this whole urge to control everything. If we stop, if we start working on this area, that I don't have to control everything, I can also give people a little bit of autonomy, that can really help. So Why we need to set boundaries is because 20 years from now, the only people that will remember that you worked late or checked emails on weekends will be your kids. Nobody is going to give you a prize or a medal for that. But the kids will remember. And, at the end of the day, we all, that is also, that is something that matters the most to us. So I think let's not only do it for us, let's do it for them as well. Okay. Then another way to handle stress is to practice self-care. I have spoken a lot about it. I'll reinforce the same idea once more. Healthy meals, staying hydrated. We all know the importance of nutrition and staying hydrated. While you're working, there are a lot of relaxation techniques. Just closing your eyes for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just just breathing, doing some breathing exercises relaxes your mind. Or maybe just get up from your workplace, walk around, or maybe just cut off yourself. Especially when you are stressed out, you cut off yourself from the workplace for a few minutes, go out, take some fresh air, come back. You will feel that you are better, equipped to handle any kind of situation. Enough sleep and rest. We know how important it is, and sleep is something that is very, very important. We have, when we talk about seafarers, there are times when you have to work for days together where the sleep is compromised, but make sure that whenever you get the first chance, you do not compromise on sleep, because that is something that keeps us going, and it's a major part of our health, both mental and physical. Then if in any case you feel the stress that you are not able to manage it yourself, even though you've spoken to your family, even though you have done the right things, it's not going away, it is always important to seek support. The first line of support can be your friend, your family, because that's the most important, that's the most comfortable thing to do. The first thing, you don't want to call a psychologist, but you call your friend or you call your family member who's closest to you. But in that case, if even if it is not happening and you are not able to get results, do not hesitate to call a psychologist, because sometimes a third eye in the problem, or the third party perspective, gives you a better result, because it comes with no judgment. With family and friends, it will come with some kind of judgment, but from a third party, it will come with no judgment. So do not hesitate to do that. Then next is hobbies. Hobbies are so important, because we feel that it's our work that defines us, but the work is like a small dot in a big universe. It's the other things that we do apart from the work that defines us, and that makes us whole as people. And it's always like there is always some space where we can fall back on. If we are not able to do if we are not able to get that joy out of the work, and if we still have to work because we have to bring the bread on the table, then there is always something at the end of the day that gives me joy. And that joy is something that is really important, that will help you to, handle stress. And last but not the least, sharpen the saw. So why I am saying sharpen the saw? Because it comes from this very amazing story that there was this one guy who was cutting a tree, and this guy was trying to do it for many hours, and his neighbor was just watching him. And this guy, he comes to him and he says that, listen buddy, I see that you've been cutting this tree for many years now, but you're not successful. Why don't you just sharpen the saw? And this guy says, sharpening the saw takes time. So that's the irony of our lives. This is what happens to us. We can give 30 minutes to ourselves, maybe 30 minutes of exercise, but we're not giving it to ourselves, because 30 minutes, I don't have time for it. 15 minutes of reading a book, I don't have time for it. So 10 minutes of just sitting by myself in silence and just thinking about myself and my day, I don't have time for this. But then at the end of the day, what we are doing, we are spending more time in certain things because we are finding it difficult to navigate us, through the day. So sharpen your saw, because that's the most important part of self-care. Learning from others. So this is the cheapest and the best way, because when you learn from others, you don't have to go through the same experience. There are amazing people around us. I am sitting in a room full of amazing women. If we start engaging with each other, we can go all night just talking about our experiences, and there'll be so much learning happening. And this is a big one that I have learned over the years. Reading books, articles, blogs. There are a lot of things that have been written on stress management and how to create joy in whatever space you are. Go for it, because it really helps. When you read, you get a third party perspective. Online and offline communities, we are already a part of one amazing community where everybody is reaching out to each other and helping. So it really makes a lot of difference. Then we have something, counseling and therapy that I have already mentioned, and also seeking support from family and friends. So family and friends is the first line of support. If we are able to find our answers with anybody who has the wisdom and who has the patience and who has the listening ear, go for it. And if it is not there, then go for counseling and therapy, because most of the time, in fact 99.9% of the time, we just want people to listen to us. That's about it. We all have our own solutions. We all know what the problem is, but when somebody just listens to us, it makes a lot of difference. So that's a very, very basic human need, and that is sometimes because it is not met in the right way, we feel the stress. Podcasts, webinars, of course, there are so many of them online. So go for it. If you feel that helps you, just go for it. And there are experts on stress management and burnout. I read a beautiful book called The Power of Now, and that changed a lot of things in me, because it spoke about that how the entire day we keep doing things and we stop being. So it's all, and the race is between doing and being. So when we stop doing and we start being what we want to be, it makes a lot of difference. So these little things, it comes maybe a sentence or two somewhere from some article, some blog, some book, some podcast, and it can change the ways. It's just that you have to do it in a regular manner. So learn every day, but especially from the experiences of others, because it's cheaper. When you go through the experiences, you have to pay a price. So let somebody else pay the price and let us get the wisdom. I don't wish that for anyone, but then that's a smarter way of doing it.
Hi, I'm
Okay, so
just going to interject, and we're running a bit out of time. So if we
okay.
just kind of try to wrap up as quickly as possible with this.
Okay, how much time do we have now?
We actually overshot by 10 minutes, but what we can do is we can try to wrap up this in like 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can take up answers towards the end after we've done the
yeah. So incidentally, this is the wrap up. This is the last slide. There are two circles that I want you to, I want to introduce to you. This is one circle, which is called the learning zone or the comfort zone. So sometimes we are stressed out because we want to be in the comfort zone. A little bit of stress in our lives is good, because that is where the learning happens. So when we move out of this comfort zone and move to the learning zone, it is where the learning happens. But then when we are in the comfort zone, there is another fourth zone. I told you there's a fourth zone. And this fourth zone is the complaint zone, the easiest of all. Because I don't have to do anything about the problem. I keep complaining. I find the easiest target around me, and I go and I offload all my anxieties and all my stresses on the person, and then I'm free. Next day, the same thing happens, the same. So being in that complaint zone is something like, we all love to be, and we have to come out of that. So moving on to the next circle that I would like to introduce is something, I would just skip this and I'll just directly go to the circle, is the circle of control. So one way to handle this circle, the stresses that when we saw that we want to be in this complaint zone. So let us just find out what are the things we can complain. What are the things we can control? If we are in a situation, what are the things we can control? Can we control the other people's attitudes and behaviors? No. Can we control the environment? No. Can we control, how the organizational culture is? No. Can we control people who are discriminating against us? No. We can control the responses that we give. The only thing that is under our control is us. And that is where I start working from. And that is why this is my favorite circle, because it ends up in me. So if I have a situation which requires me to be mean, like Tena said, or which requires me to give a reaction, that is where I can bring my control, because I cannot control the people around me. So having said that, this is my favorite circle. I would like you guys to always remember this, that the only thing that we can control is the response to the situation and nothing else. And being assertive and standing for yourself, because we cannot serve from an empty cup. So that's it from me. Of course, I can talk about it whole night. The time doesn't allow me to. But thank you for listening, hearing me out, and leaning in.